Welcome to the third episode of the podcast. My name is Tom. Today we have Conor Kearns, Galway United's number 16. I hope you all enjoy. So how do you feel football's going at the moment?
The moment, yeah, loving it. I'm really enjoying it. Last year was a tough year, personally, and I think for everyone with the lockdown, but back in training full time. We've had a few pre-season games and feel back to myself, really enjoying playing and training every day, so hopefully a positive year ahead.
Did you have a good friendly games I've seen for Galway United?
Yeah, we had a few. I think we played 5 now. We wrapped up our last friendly last night with a win, which is good. I think it's nice to have a routine again, have game after game after game, because obviously last year, between the lockdown and between cases popping up, there was games called off all the time. So friendlies are important now that we're getting a run of things and we're doing well, we're performing well. So hopefully it's a platform to build on.
So back to the start, explain how you got from being a kid to where you are now.
I think just persistence. I was growing up, we played for schoolboy football underage. We were a very, very good side. I think we kind of won a lot of leagues, a lot of cups, and a couple of All-Irelands. And a lot of our team were going on trials to England, going to clubs like just a couple signed for Sunderland, Reading, Everton. And I think I was one of the only ones who didn't. I think even at the underage, under 15, 16s international, I was never called into squads, but I just kind of stuck with it. And then I got to 17 and the opportunity to go to UCD popped up and it kind of went from there. I got into League of Ireland and managed to build on that.
So how did University College of Dublin come about?
I think the under-19s league had been set up kind of a year or two before. I was about 15 or 16. And that was sort of the first pathway for young players to kind of get into the League of Ireland. We didn't have the academy system that there is in England. So a lot of the time it was kind of the best of the best would have gone to England, and then next to that, lads would have gone into the League of Ireland. And I think a lot of young players missed out on the opportunity to kind of keep growing and developing. I was just playing away with my schoolboy club, and there was a scout from UCD out watching. He invited me over invited me in on trial with them just to train. And yeah, I did really well with them. And I got a bad injury just before I was meant to sign, but they kind of stuck with me. They said, you'll be out for 3 months, but we're only starting in 3 months. So they stuck with me and I got in there and played in the 19s.
Have you always played in goal?
I was about 10, I think, when I went in goal. Yeah, so I always loved going in goal, but I think at the time my manager didn't want to kind of force anyone into a position too young. So everyone played everywhere. And then when we got to 10 or 11, we started going into 11v11 matches. He said, well, look, we want a full-time goalkeeper. Do you want to do it? And I said, yeah, go on. I like throwing myself around the goal anyway, and I went for it. I have an older brother as well. He always had me in goal, kicking the ball around the back garden. So I think it came from that. He wanted me in goal all the time. So I think I was born to be a keeper, to be honest.
Who did you look up to as a kid?
I think a lot of different players. I was a big fan of Shay Given, obviously being Irish. He was a number one for Ireland for so long. A lot of goalkeepers over here. There's keepers like Alan Manners, Brendan Clark, who I played with, Gary Rogers, lads who made their craft in the League of Ireland as well, because it's probably an underappreciated league a lot of the time. These were lads who had serious talent, serious dedication, who probably worked other jobs at times, but really loved the game and went out and tried to improve. And they've all had very, very good careers. And now I think another keeper I look up to a lot is Kasper Schmeichel, because I listened to a podcast with him and to hear how he dropped down all the way down to League Two to build his way back up and go in a Premier League. It's a testament to it's up to you to be persistent, to work hard. And so that'd probably be the selection of keepers that I would have looked up to a lot.
Was balancing football and school an issue as a kid?
I think I was quite good in school. I did very well in my exams and things like that. And I think if anything suffered, my education probably suffered more than my football. So it was tough, because you can't get around the fact that you have the few hours of training every single week that you can't study as much as you want to. But I think I found it okay. I lived very close to my school and my club, so I just come home, get the schoolwork done, and then it was football for the rest of the day. But I didn't find it hard with the football side of things. No, I think if you're just organised, kept a timetable, made sure that I was ready to do everything when I needed to do it, and yeah, I was able to hold my own, thankfully, in both school and football.
Did you ever get told not to pursue football?
It was about 16, just before I was going to play with UCD. I played Gaelic football as well, and I think the Gaelic football, they wanted me to stay playing Gaelic. The football side of things, they wanted me to stay playing football, but they weren't. They just said, we'd like to keep you on as a Gaelic player, but if you go to UCD, we can't. But I think they knew I was always going to play football. I was never going to choose the Gaelic over the football.
Yeah. Then you moved to St Patrick's Athletic.
Yeah.
How did that go?
To be perfectly honest, the dressing room was great. The lads were brilliant, but I'd be lying if I said I had a good time there. I didn't really enjoy it. I didn't play as much as I thought I was going to play and as much as I wanted to play. I think the lockdown disrupted it as well, because you couldn't get a good block of training almost throughout the whole year. And I struggled a lot. Last year, I just didn't enjoy my football. I still have a lot of time for the club, a lot of time for the people there, but if you're a footballer, you want to be playing football matches, and when you're not doing that, especially at the age I was at, it's hard to really enjoy it. But look, I don't regret my time there. I learned a lot. I met a lot of great people. I learned a lot of lessons that I'll be taking into this year to hopefully go nail down a starting position and get back to playing. You
mentioned about it was a good dressing room there. Yeah. What is a good dressing room in your opinion?
I think there's two sides to it. I think not everyone has to get on, but you all have to be able to have a bit of crack and enjoy going in the morning. You want to look forward to seeing the lads there. And we used to feel lads go for coffee after training or go for lunch or something like that. They become your mates. But as well as that, I think you actually have to be able to argue with each other. Because in football, there's going to be arguments, there's going to be disagreements on the pitch. You have to be comfortable enough to know that you can give someone stick on the pitch and it's gone. Once you're off the pitch, that's it. So I think it comes from having a comfort and a mutual understanding of why you're all there. And then, I'd still talk. I was only talking to a couple of lads at Pat's yesterday about the game. I still want to see them do really well. So I think that's where the good dressing room sort of comes from.
Have you still got friends from UCD?
Yeah, loads. I think a lot of the lads who I played with UCD have moved on. Some at Shamrock Rovers. There's a couple of Pats. But yeah, I'd still keep in touch. We were a very, very good dressing room. We were all the same age. We won quite a lot together. So yeah, I'd still see. I was only out with one of them this morning. So I'd still see a lot of them all the time. So they're good lads, and I probably had friends for life made in that team.
Did the first lockdown, when football got stopped, did it interrupt your form?
Not so much my form, because I wasn't playing a whole lot at the time. But it did kind of interrupt my motivation for football for a couple of weeks, where because I wasn't playing, it was summer. I wasn't really looking forward to going back. I kind of took the foot off the pedal for a couple of weeks. I just chilled out, didn't really do much training. But at the same time, I felt so lost without football after that couple of weeks. I felt so lost without the training, that it kind of gave me that extra motivation to kind of brought that hunger back to me, where I was out and I was getting fit and I was out training with my brother all the time. So form-wise, I wouldn't say it disrupted my form as much as it just disrupted my headspace more than anything. But I managed to kind of regain that, and I came back very fit, very strong, and reminded me that I do love the game. As much as I thought I didn't at points last year, I do love it, and I would be lost without it right now anyway.
Do you know what you'd be doing if it weren't for football?
I was doing a master's degree in university in law at the time, so I probably imagine I'd be doing something in that, but I dropped out of the master's to become a full-time footballer, so probably law if I wasn't doing football.
Was it a risk going into full-time football?
I think anything is a risk. It's all risk reward, I think it was definitely a risk dropping out of a master's on a scholarship, in terms that I could have stayed there, got a degree, and really been set, not for life, but been set would have had a comfortable job and probably a good salary, and would have been able to have a decent living. and the pay over in Ireland compared to other places wouldn't be as big. There's not as big a budget for clubs, but at the same time, I think I'm too young to be making all my decisions based off money. And in terms of how happy I was going to be, there was no risk there. I was always going to be happier playing football than I was doing anything else. So the reward of getting to do what I love every single day definitely outweighs having a comfortable job and a comfortable degree.
In the last episode of the podcast, Seamus clearly described that as a kid in Ireland, the goal is to get into English football. Can you back that up?
I think it is for a lot of people. I think traditionally Irish players tend to really go for England and to play over there. But I think personally now, and a couple of people I've spoken to, is that's starting to change. I think people are starting to branch out further into Europe. Some people are looking at America. And I think that just comes with the developments of those leagues. I think as well, the underage setup in Ireland now, kids aren't going away at 15, 16 as much as they used to. They're maturing later and they have more options when they get older. So it's definitely still a big part of the Irish culture. You know, the English league is the biggest league over here. So most people want to go and play there. But it's good to see there's more diverse options as well. You can go to America if you want. They've got very good leagues over there growing now. I know Dan Rose, who's a young lad who plays for the Irish underage teams, is in Germany at the moment, I think, with Schalke. There's a guy here called Kevin Zeffi, who I don't know if he signed for Inter Milan, but he was linked with them. So we're seeing more of that branching out further into Europe, further into America. And I think that can only be good for Irish football because you have the different football cultures being bred into the youth.
Do you remember any debuts for games for different clubs?
My very first competitive game was for UCD, and I was just turned 18, and compared to what I am now, I was a skinny little awkward kid who probably wasn't really ready for men's football. And Shelburne were favourites to win the league that year. But I remember the game. I was probably the most nervous I've ever been for a football game my entire life, just because I didn't know what to expect. But I think we went on. We won 2-1. I had quite a good game. And I don't think I ever looked back from there. That made me feel like I kind of belonged in the team I was in, and I kind of grew from there. So that was one of my best moments in football, really, if I'm being honest with myself. And hopefully I have a debut for Galway United coming up soon. That will be one to remember, because that's going to be against Shelburne as well if I'm in the team. So kind of come full circle in a way.
Who's been the biggest influence on your career so far?
I think there's a couple. I think Collie O'Neill, who was my manager at UCD, and Ger Barron, who was my goalkeeper coach, were massive influences because they gave me my first chance in senior football. I think my family have pushed me to keep going. I think at 15, 16, it was very hard. Like I said, I wasn't going to England and I wasn't getting capped. But they kind of kept me, made sure that I stuck with it and persevered and pursued the career in the game. So I think I owe a lot to them. And I think even now, my manager and my coach, John Caulfield and Luca, who are at Galway, are massive influences because they really want to improve me as a player. They really want to make sure I feel at home living in a different city. As small as Ireland is, it is a big culture change which you wouldn't expect. And so I think near most every manager and coach I've worked with have all left an impact on me.
Why number 16 for Galway United?
I didn't actually have much of a choice in it, to be honest with you. I think Kev, who's our other goalkeeper, was number 1 last year, and early on in the off season he was sort of re-signed, and they said, do you want to keep number 1? And he said yeah. So it was either that or 26. So I said I'll just go with 16. I'll keep it, and I don't pay too much heed to what number I wear anyway. Once I'm between the sticks, I don't mind.
What do you remember your numbers from different clubs?
Yeah, I was number 1 at UCD. And I was number 25 at St. Pat's. And then I was number 16 at Galway. So the 3 numbers I've won.
Do you have a planned diet for a week? Does the club set any diets?
I think depending on the player, if they want the player to put on extra size or lose a little bit of size, they'll be stricter with the diets. I think for me, they're quite happy with how I am at the moment, the weight I'm at, the height I'm at. So it's more, rather than exactly what I eat, it's making sure I eat the right number of calories every single day. Make sure I get the right amount of protein, carbs, and basically don't drink too much, don't eat too much crap, and don't eat takeaways all the time. I think, you get used to your own body and what's good for you, so you can kind of work around that.
Do you have any superstitions?
I wouldn't be a particularly superstitious person as much as I just have a routine more than anything. So I listen to the same kind of pre-match playlist before a game. I kind of always have a can of White Monster before the game for a caffeine kick. And I really don't do anything the day of a match up until about 2 hours before we're about to meet. Like, I'll eat, but other than that, I won't do anything. I won't think about the game. I'll just chill out. But the reason I'm not particularly superstitious was that, you know, if I forgot my can of Monster, or if I forgot my headphones and couldn't listen to my playlist, it can make you really nervous. You can think, oh, I'm not going to play the same now because I don't have this or that. So I wouldn't say I'm superstitious that I rely on them, but I just like having a routine going into a game.
You mentioned you lost motivation a few years ago about football.
Yeah.
How do you have motivation now to get up and train?
I think the loss of motivation came because I felt like I wasn't being successful. I was winning a lot with my team, but I wasn't getting any individual recognition. And then when I got to 17 or 18, I kind of it started to kick on for me. I started to climb the ladder a little bit. And when I learned that lesson, that persistence and hard work is rewarded, it made me more patient. So now I think it's easy to motivate myself to get out of bed because I'm living, irrespective of that, I won't be making the big bucks over here. I'm doing what I want to do. I love the job I have. I mean, I'd much rather get up and go out to a football pitch and be in a dressing room with good lads and do that from 9 a.m. in the morning than I would to go into an office job, you know. No disrespect to anyone who does that. It's just, for me, this is what I love and this is what I want to do. So if I'm not motivated to do this, I'm not going to be motivated to do much else.
Can you remember a game-winning save from any games?
A game-winning save, I've had a couple, surprisingly. I think the one that sticks out was I was playing for UCD against Galway United, and it was really tight at the top of the table between us and another team. And I saved a penalty in the first half, and then I managed to pull a header out of the top corner. Late enough on in the game, we went on to win 2-0. And I think they were probably big saves at the time. It was kind of when I earned my stripes in the team. I think people started to respect me a bit more because I was a young player in the team. I was a new face. The keeper before me had done very, very well. I kind of got a bit of recognition and got man of the match in that game, and that kind of gave me an extra boost and kind of brought the respect levels up for me and the team a little bit. So they'd probably stick out.
Do you often get any bookings as a keeper?
I've only really been booked for time wasting because you have to do it as a keeper. Your goal kick goes out, you're winning 1-0, or you walk over, kick a ball away, whatever. But I did get a red card 2 years ago, and I got a 7-match ban for it. So that was probably the longest. It was the only time I'd ever been sent off, the only suspension I ever really got. So that was probably the only disciplinary problem I've ever had.
What did you get 7 matches for?
So we had played against a team called Bohemians. We won 1-0. And after the game, I celebrated in front of the Bowls fans, kind of wound them up a little bit. And just a bit of pushing and shoving kind of kicked off. There was no punching or anything like that. It was just a couple of head-to-heads with players. And then I wasn't actually showed the red card. I didn't know I got sent off. And then 2 days before the next game, the suspension list was put out, and got an immediate 1-game ban, and then an extra 6 games after that. So that was my 2 months out of football suspension.
Was there no appealing it?
I don't think they could appeal it because actually I can't really remember the whole thing about it, but they couldn't appeal it because I think the other fella from Bohemians got 5 games and they weren't appealing it. And I think the way they looked at it was that they said that I initiated the whole situation. So if he wasn't going to get off, I wasn't going to get off. So I just had to wait it out and sit my time on the sidelines for that.
Are you a vocal goalkeeper?
I like to think I am, yeah. I think it comes with age and experience. The older I get, the more I talk. Although it's not so much about how much you talk as much as it is the quality of what you say. You've got to be informative, but without commentating in the entire game. So I like to think, I'm vocal without overkill, without talking just for the sake of talking, which you can easily get caught up in.
Yeah, a goalkeeper I spoke to said the more you talk, the less you have to do. Is that something you can?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think some of the games where I feel like I've had my best game, I mightn't have even touched the ball. I barely might have touched the ball. It's just more telling the player to open out in the ball and you get away and you have a good attack, or telling someone to mark someone and then they go and deal with it, or they intercept the pass, or just sweeping up behind, putting your name on crosses and things like that. So you might not have the big saves to make, but you've kind of really kept everything organized in front of you that you don't have to do as much work as you would have wanted to, or as you would have expected to.
What's the worst position a midfielder or striker can take a free kick from?
I've had a couple of them. Dead centre of the goal, 18 to 20 yards out. It's just horrible to be in, because we played. Who did we play? I played a game actually against Galway United, funnily enough, and the fella managed to get it up and over the wall, and I went full stretch, and the ball hit the crossbar and hit me in the back of the head and went in. And then the next week, the team got a free kick in the exact same position, and I slightly gambled, and he went my side, and it hit the post, came back, hit me in the knee, and went out for a corner kick, and nearly went in. And they were literally identical positions. They went two opposite sides, and it was nearly the exact same result. So I think when it's dead middle of the goal, you've just got to kind of put a big wall there and hope your man doesn't hit the target, because if they do, there's not a lot you can do sometimes.
Does it depend on how many players are in the wall from the position of the free kick?
Yeah, I think more and more now, I like the idea if it's a free kick 35 yards out or 30 yards out, I probably won't put a big wall in anymore. And I think a lot of keepers are starting to go that way, because it gives you a better view of the ball. If someone's 35 yards out and you can set yourself in the middle of the goal, it's going to take a hell of a strike to go in. So I'm starting to buy into that ideology a bit more. I think the closer it is, the more men I put in the wall. I get 5 or 6 in the wall and just try to cover as much of the goal as possible. In fairness, if someone gets the ball up and over the wall and in, fair play to them, because it is a skill. They get free kicks to try and give them a chance to score. If they score, credit to them.
Have you ever had an experience with a striker trying to mess around with you in the corner?
Yeah, all the time. I've had big bruises on my feet. I've lost toenails. I've had a couple of smacks down below. It's just, you just get used to it, though. You've got to be aggressive and try to keep them off as much as you can, but it's part and parcel of the game. I think if you ask the strikers who stood on me, they'd probably say I was doing the same back to them. So it's just it's part of the game, I think.
Does that happen more in lower leagues than? Would you see that in the Premier League, do you think?
I think now players won't be as nasty because of VAR. If you throw an arm back or throw your head back, you're going to get caught on VAR, like doing something like, even there's a red card in the United and Spurs game this season, where I think Martial threw an arm out at Lamela and he got sent off for it. I think the thing with the lower leagues is that might not get picked up by VAR. Someone might get away with just throwing that arm back. But Premier League players are probably nastier than people think. They're clever and they're cute with it as well. I played in a friendly against the Irish senior team, and they're cute. Like, they know what they're doing. They know how to kind of trudge on a foot or leave one in on you. But they're just they're sneakier with it.
What's the best kit you've played in your opinion?
The best kit I've played in, we have a kit this year and it's lovely. It's an all green kit, and I love it. And I played in one with UCD that was like an luminous yellow. And I don't know if you remember Shaka Hislop, who played for West Ham and Newcastle, but he used to have these outrageous like 90s goalkeeper jerseys with mad patterns on them. It was one of them, and I loved it. I love that kit now.
I think it is this season. There's a Bristol City one that's got all different colours on it.
Yeah, I quite like them. I know they get a bit of stick, but I don't mind them, because I played in some horrible kits as well. We used to have this old kit that was like gold and horrible gold brown color and baggy, and you felt awful. You just felt awful, and it didn't look like a footballer wearing it. Like, so I like when I was colourful kit.
What's the most under pressure you felt in a match?
I think any time you're winning maybe 1-0, or even if you're drawing and you're under the cosh, and you're trying to cling on to a result, it's always a pressure situation, because you know yourself, one slip, one tiny mistake, and that could be the result could be gone. And I think I've been on both ends of it, where late on I've done really, really well, where it's come and taken a cross under pressure, or making a big save late on. But I've done the opposite and dropped the clanger in the 90th minute as well. I think most keepers have. So we had one game where we played Finn Harps and we needed a point to win the league. And there was about 4 minutes left, and Finn Harps were just banging balls into the box. And I was coming for everything and coming and taking everything. And I definitely felt pressure on me, but I think I kind of rose to the occasion. So I'd say that game was the most pressure I felt in a match. But any last minute situation where you're getting hammered by a team, it's always pressure.
In your opinion, if you're winning 1-0 and it's the 90th minute, is it best to just hoof it up the pitch, or to try and play it out from the back?
I think Pep Guardiola and Marcelo Bielsa are the two coaches who really say, if you're winning a game and you're doing well, why change what you've been doing for the whole game? I think Pep's a big advocate of that if they're winning a game, even if it's 1-0, but they've been playing out of the back for the whole game, why then change and just smack it into the corner for the last few minutes? But I think what happens, with respect, City are one of the best teams in the world and have some of the best footballers in the world. I think when you drop down lower into the league, you just want to see the game out. You just don't want to make a mistake. So I think it's natural to just bang balls into the corner and try shithouse your way to a 1-0 win if you can. I would probably go long. I would personally would delay time as much as I can, get the team up the pitch and try to just put the ball into the corner and defend for our lives.
Is there a call by the manager to say waste time, or to just do it anyway if you're winning?
I don't think I've ever had a manager shout onto the pitch to me to say waste time, because I think most players now will know if you're winning 1-0 and you catch a cross in the 90th minute and try to zing a side volley through the middle of the pitch, your manager's probably going to lift you for it. So I think as players, you learn from your experiences and kind of realize, right, just take it easy for a second. Players get tired as well. You have to know that your teammates could be out on their feet and they want you to just stay down as long as you can, kill the game as much as you can, kill the tempo, don't give them any chance to win the ball back and launch another attack. So I think among the players, you kind of know yourself, sit tight and don't do anything stupid.
Do you do much analysis as a goalkeeper?
Loads of analysis. Personally, anyway, I do. We're playing a team, I'll study the opposition strikers as much as I can. See, preferred foot, what type of runs they like to do, what their hold-up play is like, if they have any specific moves in attack. And then in my own game, I'll watch every match back. I'll analyse, like, if I think I could have done better for a goal, how can I change that? If I think I haven't played out as much as I wanted to, what were the options to play out that I wasn't seeing during the game? Because it's the only way you can improve. I think you have to analyse things. There's a line where you can stop, but you have to analyse things if you want to learn and improve, and also if you want to be ready for a match.
Is that set by the club, or would you just go out your way and watch the opposition play?
I think it's both. I think clubs in general will analyse teams, and you'll get clips of players to see, okay, well, what's this player like? What does this player do? And then personally, I've always tried to improve my game as much as I can. I've always wanted to develop as a goalkeeper. So I try to act like a sponge and soak up as much information from people as I can. So there's two sides to it. The club obviously wants you to do it, and then I kind of take matters into my own hands with a few things as well, and watch things myself.
Have you ever been chipped?
Have I ever been chipped? Yeah, I have. When I was 17, I got done with one of the best goals I've ever conceded. I was only in my penalty spot, and this fella ran onto a volley first time and whacked it from the halfway line. Flew over my head, hit the crossbar and went in. At senior level, I don't think I've been done. Not yet, anyway. But I think enough people have tried at this stage. It's probably going to happen eventually. And it's the worst feeling in the entire world. It's the worst when you're standing there and you know a ball is floating over your head and going in. It's terrible.
And is it another feeling when a striker hits it and you know that it's going in?
Yeah, I think sometimes a player hits a ball and it stays hitting, you know, that's it. You're not getting near this. And I think even when you go full stretch, you know when a ball's been hit, sometimes you're just beaten. But on the flip side of that, there's been times where a striker's hit a ball and it's flying in, and I've just dived just because you have to attempt to go for everything, really. And I've managed to get a fingertip on it or claw it out and just managed to save it. So there's two sides to that, but yeah, it's a bad feeling when someone hits one and it's stayed hit and you know you have no hope.
Do you ever get nervous for diving at players' feet?
Yeah, actually, I did for a while. I mentioned earlier that I got a bad injury when I was about 17, and I slid out at someone's feet, and he, in fairness to him, he tried to get out of the way, but he caught me with his knee right here, and he broke my cheek, he broke my jaw, and he broke my eye socket, and I was concussed. I was knocked out, and I missed a few months of football after that. And I remember when I came back, I couldn't dive with my hands and head first the way you normally would. I kept turning my body away just because I obviously had taken this really bad knock and I was naturally trying to protect myself. But I think as I got past that, it's just a natural instinct. You know, you don't really think about it. So it's the same as anything. I think with time, I managed to work on the technique again. And now you don't think about it. You see a ball, you go for it. You have to try to get there.
What the football's like in Ireland?
Yeah, we've had a mix. We've had some, I mean, like, it's the same at any level. You get a really, really good football some years, and then one year you might get a ball and go, this is crap. We have a new brand of footballs this year, and they're nice now. They're nice in fairness to them, but they're one of those that if a striker hits it well, it's going to wobble like that. I don't know if you remember the Jubilani from the 2010 World Cup. Yeah, we had it. It's not as bad as that, but it's not dissimilar. If it stays hit, it's going to wobble and move. So they're nice, though. They're nice. They're good ones. We played a match yesterday. I found they're really good to kick. You know, we make contact with them, that flies. So they're good for now, anyway.
Do you have a preferred side to kick a goal kick?
Yeah, I always prefer kicking sort of across my body just because it's easier to disguise, and so out to my left because I'm right-footed. It's easier than I'm actually okay with my left foot, but I couldn't zing a ball with my left foot the way I could with my right. So if I want to try and hit a ball out to the right full, I'll always have to kind of work my way around the ball and go that way. Whereas if I'm going to my left, it's just much more natural for me to be able to take 2 steps and go there straight away. So for me, that's the preferred side to go out to with me right.
Do you prefer playing out the back?
Yeah, personally I do, yeah. Because when I played at Templo, we were a really good footballing team. We always tried to play out of the back. And it was actually when I was like 16, I couldn't play long. Like my kicking wasn't good at all because I never had to. I was never instructed to kick a ball long at that age. We were always trying to play out. So I could hit a ball 30 or 40 yards with a pass, but if we wanted to just boom a ball down the pitch, I couldn't do it. I physically didn't have the technique to do it. And UCD was very similar. We always tried to play as much as we could. So it's just the only way I've ever really played, trying to play out of the back.
Is that because it's becoming more normal now to play out from the back?
Yeah, I think when I was growing up, it still wasn't the big thing. It was, I think, when I was 7, 8, 9, 10, the 4-4-2 was probably still the dominant formation across Europe, really. But first, we had a manager. His name was Alan Kinsella, and he took us from a young age, and he always had us playing football, always. And we were one of the first teams underage at our age, anyway, to play the 4-3-3 and try, create different angles and play that way. And I think now it's becoming more common with the academy systems to develop footballers, like the way Ajax always have, for one example, or Barcelona. And that philosophy of having people who are comfortable on the ball is becoming more and more prominent.
Do you have a preferred glove cut?
I do. I like either a roll finger or a negative roll. I'm using Precision at the moment, Precision gloves. The Giga 4, I think it's called. It's a roll finger, and they're lovely. I like nice, tight-fitting gloves. on the hands. I don't like, some people prefer the big bulky ones, but I prefer something tight around the fingers.
And you wear tape?
I wear tape on my wrists. And to be honest with you, I don't know why I started. I think another keeper was doing it, and I said, "Oh, I'll try that," and I just did it for like 1 or 2 games, and then I went to play a game, and I was like, I wasn't bothered putting the tape on, and the gloves felt so different on my hands because I'd taken the tape off. So it's not a protective thing. It's just, it doesn't feel right anymore without having the tape on my wrists.
Is that,
so that's the way I do it.
Is that something you do if you won a game with tape on, you want to keep it on?
Yeah, always. I'll put it on for the game, for the warm-up. I'll strap my wrists up, and I do it for training now as well. And I'll leave it on till after the game. And I don't think I have any hairs on my forearms anymore because I'm just ripping the tape off my arms. It's just stripped my arm bare.
Do you have any funny stories from your career?
Any funny stories? I'll try to keep this PG because I haven't got too many of the stories probably aren't appropriate enough to tell. I think probably the funniest story from a personal level, it was a mad one, was when I was 18, I was playing in a game against Cork City in the Under-19s League, and we were 1-0 down, and I came up for a corner in the 90th minute and scored an overhead kick.
I saw that earlier.
Throughout the game 1-1. And I just started training with the first team at the time, and someone pulled me in to say, listen, the tape was sent in to SoccerAM. They want you to be on the show. And I thought they just wanted to show the clip, and they said, no, they want to fly you over to England to go and be on the show and recreate the goal and get in goal for the volleys and all that and the penalties and stuff like that. And I thought it was a wind up. I thought all the first team lads were trying to mess with me, like, and take the mickey out of me. And that afternoon, I got a phone call from an English number. And did you watch SoccerAM much? Did you ever watch it?
Not really.
But there's a guy called Rocket who's on SoccerAM. He's been on it for years. He's one of like the most the big people on the show, and he actually rang me directly. So then the next week, I ended up flying over, was on SoccerAM, recreated the goal live on TV, did it first time, and came home and it went viral. It blew up for months. I mean, it was mad. So that was that's probably the funniest, weirdest story I have from my time playing football, I think, from a personal level anyway.
So SoccerAM, did you go into the open studio, isn't it?
Yeah. So I went in. They had us in this little kind of cinema area beforehand, just watching clips of football, and then they brought us out into the car park, and then they brought me in, and I was just standing in with like the supporters come in. I was just standing in amongst the supporters. They showed the goal. They brought us back out to the car park where they did the volleys, and then they asked me a few questions. They said, right, we'll try to recreate the goal here. So they brought a crash mat out, and Fennis, who was the host, was throwing the ball up, and I had to try to recreate it. And we actually did a rehearsal, and I tried it 4 or 5 times, and I missed every single one of them. They were terrible. I was dribbling them along the ground and booted one like over into the car park. And I went live, first take, first one he threw up, I hopped up, whacked it, put it right into the top corner. So that was it, I was finished. So that was like, looking back on it, it's just bizarre that happened. It's probably not ever going to happen to anyone that I know or anyone I even know barely. So it was a funny, lucky story that I probably have from football.
Was it weird to see SoccerAM being filmed?
It was really weird. It was really weird seeing people because it was a big thing when I was growing up. SoccerAM was a big, big thing. Every morning when we'd get to training, we'd play on a Saturday. So every morning we'd show up on Saturday, everyone was talking about SoccerAM from that morning. So it was a real thing of our childhood. So it was really strange going in and meeting people like Tubes and Rocket and like Helen Chamberlain, who was hosting it for years, meeting all those people. Seeing what it looks like behind the scenes, seeing the way they talk to the people in the audience. And I think I briefly met Jimmy Bullard as well, which was obviously
that's who I know from it.
Yeah, so well known. So that side of things was weird. But yeah, they're all lovely people, and it was an experience I don't think I'll ever forget, in fairness.
What was going through your head to try an overhead kick in that game?
I don't really know, to be honest with you. I think my brother always says to me, he's like, you could have headed that. But the ball just looped up in the air, and I was standing at the back post, and I was kind of dropping down, and I had my back to goal, and I can only do one thing here. So I'd go for it. Like, worst things happens is I miss him. We're going to lose the game anyway. So I just went for it. And I remember, because obviously you're facing away from goal, I hit my foot, and I was like, that's got a chance. I looked over my shoulder, and I just saw kind of nest into the far corner. And then after that, it was just absolute hysterics. And I knew the goalkeeper for the other team quite well. And he had an unbelievable game. One of the best games I think I've ever seen him have. He was pulling balls out of the top corner and making unbelievable saves. And I scored that, and then it was just panic. And the funny thing was, they nearly scored from tip-off straight after that to win the game. About a minute later, but they didn't. So I couldn't tell you what was going through my head, but afterwards I was having a great time.
Is that the only goal you scored as a goalkeeper?
It's the only goal I've scored in normal time. I played a game at UCD. I went to a penalty shootout, and they went first, and I saved the fourth penalty, and then we scored, and then I saved the fifth penalty, and then I took the fifth penalty and scored it, and we won on penalties. So I think that was the other goal I got for UCD.
What's the perfect weather conditions for a game of football, in your opinion?
I think if it lashes rain the day before a game, and then the sun is out the next morning, because I like playing in mild. I don't like when the sun's blazing, but when it's a nice, mild, calm day, hot weather, and the pitch is wet, it's got a zip on it. So I think I love summer kickoffs here because we play in the evening. So around 7:45, it's nice. It's not too hot. It's calm, nice weather, good zip on the pitch. That's my absolute favourite.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
To be honest, I don't know. I don't think that far into the future as much as I try to take things. So I'll have targets for the first half of the season, and I'll have targets for the end of the season, and I'll work on them every single week. And I know if I hit the targets I want to hit, but play the way I want to play, then the club and myself will go up another level. And for me, my career has always been one step at a time. It's never been I never went from Queeving Keller would be my age, say, and I played with the Irish team with him, and he went from Ringmahon in Cork straight to Liverpool, into the 23s, into the first team. But that's never been the trajectory of my career. I was always one step, one step, one step, and one step. So I like to think of it in short blocks, knowing that if I keep climbing the ladder the way I am, well, then the opportunities are limitless, really, in football.
How did the Ireland International come about?
I was playing for UCD. We had just won the league. And Stephen Kenny, who managed in the League of Ireland, took over the 21s. And I played quite well against Dundalk when we played them. And I think he set up a camp for just the League of Ireland players at the end of the season, or at the beginning of the season. And he brought me into it. I did really well in that camp. And then the first squad came about, and I just got a letter a couple of days before the squad was announced saying you're in the under-21 squad. That was it. Met up with them. And I think I was in nearly every squad up until the last 3 or 4, I think. I didn't play many games with them, but the training with them, and you look at some of the lads now, like Queevian's the obvious one playing for Liverpool, Aaron Connolly at Brighton, Adam Ida playing at Norwich, Darragh O'Shea at West Brom. There was a lot of lads who that year went on to make their Premier League and Championship debuts. So it was a very, very good squad.
Could you have had an opportunity to play in England?
I could have when I was 21. I got an offer from a Premier League team to go and sign for their under-23s. But it was a short contract. I wasn't going to get the chance to go on loan anywhere. So at that stage, I kind of decided that I was best off playing sort of senior football, because I'd been doing that for about a year and a half at that stage. And I saw a lot of people went over on a short-term contract and they would come back very quickly. So I didn't take that chance. I was really appreciative of getting it, but I was there for 2 weeks training with them, and then I said I wasn't interested in signing. I came home, and I think I signed for St. Pat's shortly after that. But that was the only option I had at that stage.
Do you think that a player can become a an amazing player without playing any games? If they just practiced on their own, can they become a good player?
I think you can definitely become technically really, really good. Because I've played with people who have had to work on their first touch, had to work on their heading, have had to work on their finishing and their crossing. And the way to do that is to go out onto the pitch on your own or with one other person and say, just ping that football at me 20 times after working my first touch. Pass me that ball, I have to put 20 crosses into the box of my own. But I think to become a real player, like a really, really good player, you have to get used to playing against other people. You have to play football matches. So I think you can get a lot of technical ability just from going out on your own. And then once you have that, you get used to playing at match tempo, used to the positional sense, and then you can develop from there.
I usually ask outfield players whether they prefer 1 goal or 2 assists. But as a goalkeeper, what would I ask you?
I think one thing I'm asked is, people always ask me, would I rather win a game 5-1 or 1-0? I get asked that a lot. So would I rather win the game 5-1 but concede, or say 6-3 and we have 3 extra goals, or would I rather win 1-0 and keep a clean sheet? Or, would I rather have a great game and win 2-1, or have nothing to do and win 1-0? And I think I would probably rather keep a clean sheet at all costs from a selfish perspective. But if it came down to a situation where we needed a goal difference, you'd have to say, right, go on, win 6-3, take the 3 extra goals. So I think I always get asked, would I rather a clean sheet and even a bad game or an unbelievable game but concede? I think for a keeper, you always want a clean sheet no matter what.
And do you keep many clean sheets?
Yeah, I've got a good record. I think I average a clean sheet in 1 in every less than 3 games or something like that. I played 60 odd games and kept 27, 28 clean sheets. It just gets better every time. Every time you keep a clean sheet, it's a great feeling because, whether you're busy or not, going into that game, if I don't concede a goal here, we have a great chance of winning. And it's the same for the whole back line. It's always a good feeling not conceding a goal, because terrible feeling when the ball goes in and someone's celebrating around you or someone's going off. You hear the crowd celebrating. It's not the same as scoring a goal, which I have done, if I didn't mention. Scoring a goal is definitely a better feeling, but like as a keeper, keeping a clean sheet, it's pride more than anything. That's what you're there for. So,
would you like to stay at Galway United for a few years?
The league over here is a bit unpredictable. Most clubs only do 1-year contracts. Some clubs might do 2 or 3 years. But I'm loving Galway United right now. And I think if the club fulfills its potential and gets to the level that it can get to, because it's really good facilities, really good fan base. We've signed some really good players. So as long as I was enjoying my time here and enjoying the football I'm playing, I can't see any reason why I wouldn't stay for another year at least.
What's the best away ground you've been to as a player?
I'd say the best stadium I played in was I played against Molde when I was under 19s in a youth league game, so the underage Champions League. And that was it was an artificial pitch, but it was lovely. The stadium was unbelievable. We trained there the day before. So that was probably the best stadium I played in. And then Tallaght Stadium over here is the best one that I'll play in regularly. That's where Shamrock Rovers play. Really nice stadium, really nice facilities. I think everyone really enjoys going there. So,
what's a typical rest day for you?
Typical rest day, you're looking at a chill out. I'll go out, I'll go for a walk, probably just to stretch the legs out, or I'll go for a swim. Foam roll a little bit, get a massage going on the legs, make sure I'm eating properly, rehydrating like I am, and really not doing a whole lot. That's if I'm resting. If I've had 2 days off, I'll probably get a gym session in if I can. But really a rest day is just that, because you have to, as much as training is important, I think looking after your body is just listening to your body is important. Like I had a match yesterday, so I'm sore today. So today I'm just chilling out, foam rolling, eating well and watching football.
Do you watch much Premier League?
I do, yeah. I watch it when it's on. I take more of an interest in the League of Ireland personally, because I grew up supporting that league. I supported the team in this league my whole life, so it's always been my number one thing. Always been my favourite league to watch. But yeah, I will watch the Premier League. It's on at the weekends. It's always on telly. Weekend off, it's going to be on all day. So I watch a lot of Premier League. Yeah.
Did you go to many games as a kid?
Every week I went to games. I went to a team called Shamrock Rovers. I travelled all over the country watching them. I was a season ticket holder for a couple of years. And I think that's probably why the League of Ireland is still my favourite league, because once you start going to games, there's no comparison. And I think, people you always see on Twitter, people talk about supporting local versus supporting the big teams. I think you can do both. But when you start going to football matches and you really get wrapped up in a club, there's nothing compares to it. You have to do it to understand it and to really love it.
Use blades or studs?
Studs. I was always told as a keeper, always wear studs. And I played a game and I was wearing moldies, and I came to run out and I slipped. And the centre forward came in and took it around me and scored. And ever since then, I've been religiously wear studs.
How often do you change studs in your boots?
Me, I am absolutely terrible for changing studs in my boots, to be honest with you. It generally gets to a stage where I'll be training one day and I'll lose complete grip on the ground and I'll just have to change them then. So I'm not one of these who changes it every 2 weeks. It's when they start to fail me, that's when I'll change them.
I hope you all enjoyed as much as I did. I'd like to thank Conor for his time. I'll see you all in my next video. Goodbye.